never really ever liked Lambier in any social situation?
No.
Yeah.
And it's because he was a dirty player.
Larry Bird didn't talk for show. He talked to win. And if you disrespected him, even by accident, you were getting the full treatment. From white defenders he refused to acknowledge to rivals he tried to destroy with words and jumpers, Bird made sure everyone knew exactly where they stood. These are the 6 players Larry Bird truly hated playing against. Starting with the person not a lot of people liked, Bill Laimbeer. This wasn't one of those rivalries that faded after retirement. Bird's beef with Laimbeer never cooled off. He didn't just dislike him on the court, he avoided him off of it. And unlike his grudges with Magic or Jordan, there was no mutual respect keeping this one civil. Celtics versus Pistons in the late 80s was already personal, but with Laimbeer, it cut deeper. Bird came from nothing. French Lick, Indiana, raised by a single mom. Meanwhile, Laimbeer was the son of a rich executive. Bird's mom was a fan of Laimbeer and Isaiah, which only made things weirder. But Larry never played along.
You never really ever liked Lambier in any social situation?
No.
It all started in 1985. Eastern Semis. Game 2. Lambier elbows Bird midair, splits his chin open. Bird doesn't complain. He just knocks down a jumper, then torches Detroit for 42 points. Publicly, he kept it cool. But in practice, he was mocking Lambier's flops and laughing about it with teammates. From then on, the hate was official. By 1987, it blew up. Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals, Bird pump fakes, Laimbeer hammers him. Bird retaliates by whipping the ball at his head. Both get ejected. Bird later said he wished the refs had just let them fight. Before Game 4, Bird refused to shake hands. During the game, he cursed Lambier out. After the game, he did it again. Celtics won that series in 5, with Bird making the iconic steal and assist to DJ. When Laimbeer tried to shake hands afterward, Bird walked right past him. Even as the Pistons passed Boston in the standings and won titles, Bird never gave Laimbeer respect. He didn't like how he played, didn't like what he stood for, and didn't pretend otherwise. In 1986, when Laimbeer was snubbed from the All-Star game, Bird's response was short, "Good. Now I won't have to say hi to him." Laimbeer never denied any of it. "I don't fight," he once said. "I agitate, then walk away." But Bird didn't let him walk. The grudge stayed alive well after both had retired. In 2013, Bird confirmed again that they never spoke off the court, and Laimbeer didn't push for any reunion either. "If I saw him at an event," he said, "I'd sit at a different table." Not every fight in Larry Bird's career came from years of built-up tension. Some just exploded in the moment. That was the case with Julius Erving. At the time, Bird was on a tear. Early November 1984, Celtics versus Sixers, both teams undefeated. Bird had already dropped 42 points by the third quarter. Erving had just 6. The game was getting out of hand, and Bird wasn't letting up.
Larry Bird was a great trash talker. He's like, "Charles, y'all better get this old man off me."
Charles Barkley, then a Sixers rookie, was on the court and saw it firsthand. According to Barkley, Bird wasn't talking directly to Erving, but was making sure everyone around him heard the message.
And he's just roasting Doc.
Yeah.
Eventually, it boiled over. Bird picked up an offensive foul and walked by Erving. Something was said, nobody's ever confirmed exactly what, but Barkley claims Doc turned to him and snapped,
"You better get over here because I'm going to kill this old man."
That's when it happened. Barkley grabbed Bird's arms. Doc reached out and grabbed Bird by the neck. A second later, he threw a series of punches. Chaos broke out at half court.
And Doc had just had enough.
The photo of both legends with fists up and hands around each other's throats became an instant classic. Both players were ejected. Each fined $7,500, massive at the time. Moses Malone and Barkley both caught flack for jumping in. Bird didn't say much publicly, but years later, Robert Parrish confirmed Bird's message that night. He told Doc, "You're not explicit anymore. I'm the new explicit on the block." That was enough to send a Hall of Famer over the edge. But here's the twist. The very next day, Bird and Erving filmed a Converse commercial together in Boston. And years later, Dr. J reflected on the whole thing with clarity. The funny thing about their relationship is the two men didn't have anything specifically personal against each other. When asked why they didn't get along, Dr. J said this.
The irony is we did get along. It's just that when somebody plays for Boston and somebody else plays for Philly, if you have to get on the court and play with one another, I don't care if it's your mother.
He went on to explain that the problem weren't the two players, it were the teams. Back in the 1980s, when you played for Philly and Boston, you simply couldn't get along. Even if it was your brother on the other team, you had to hate each other. And Boston didn't just have beef with Philly, they hated everyone that met them in a serious playoff series. Just ask Ralph Sampson. After the Sixers and Pistons, there was one more team that earned Boston's full-blown contempt, the Houston Rockets, and no player symbolized that more than Ralph Sampson. The bad blood peaked in the 1986 NBA Finals. Houston had shocked the Lakers in the West, led by their towering front court, Hakeem Olajuwon and the 7'4" Ralph Sampson. Boston still had the edge, but tensions exploded in Game 5 when Sampson did the unthinkable. He sucker punched Jerry Sichting, a Celtics guard nearly a foot and a half shorter than him. Bird didn't react right away. He didn't need to. The entire city of Boston was already preparing revenge. By the time the series shifted back to Boston for Game 6, it wasn't just a basketball game anymore. Fans had hung a mannequin in Sampson's jersey from a noose in the rafters of the Garden. Sampson later admitted that walking into that building was one of the most terrifying moments of his career. Bird, meanwhile, leaned into the chaos. After the game, Bird wasn't happy at all. In an interview with LA Times, he told the reporters this. Sampson and the rest of the Rockets better put on their hard hats because our fans can get nasty too. There will be a lot of contact in Boston. He didn't say it for headlines. He said it to send a message. Bird felt disrespected. The Celtics felt disrespected. And the city felt like Sampson had crossed a line you didn't cross in Boston. Inside the locker room, Bird told his teammates exactly what kind of game this was going to be. He didn't want finesse. He didn't want discipline. He wanted punishment. And he made sure it came from every direction. On the scoreboard, in the trenches, and in the air. Game 6 ended with Boston's 16th championship and Bird's revenge. 29 points, 11 rebounds, 12 assists. His only triple-double of the series. He outplayed everyone on the floor, led every run, even beat Olajuwon on the jump ball. Years later, Bird called it the best game of his career. Sampson was held to just 8 points on 4 of 12 shooting, booed, bullied, and broken by the final buzzer. There's no famous handshake or quote about mutual respect after this one. Bird didn't need one. For him, this wasn't a personal feud, it was a line in the sand. Sampson had embarrassed Boston on national TV, and Bird made sure the entire country saw what happened next. It wasn't just about protecting a teammate or winning a title. It was about defending the Celtics' house. Bird didn't hate Sampson the way he hated Laimbeer, but in that moment, Sampson became a symbol, and Bird made sure he was erased. After dealing with Sampson and the Rockets, Bird's next target wasn't a finals rival or a dirty bruiser. It was just a guy who had the misfortune of being white and assigned to guard him. That guy was Tom Chambers. Chambers was no scrub. By the late 1980s, he had become a force with the Phoenix Suns, a high-flying forward with a smooth jumper and real confidence in his game. He could score with either hand, get to the rim, and hold his own physically. But none of that mattered to Bird. Not when he looked across the court and saw another white guy lined up across from him. As Robert Parrish, the famous center for the 1980s Celtics, once told, Larry could talk. It didn't matter whether he was red hot from the field or couldn't shoot a lick that day, he wouldn't stop talking to the opposing team.
He never stopped talking trash, ever.
One time, when the Celtics were playing the Suns, the coach put Chambers on Bird. And as we mentioned, Bird really didn't like white players guarding him. He considered basketball to be the black man's game, and every time a white player was put on him, Bird felt disrespected. That's why Bird couldn't stand Chambers. Before the tip-off, he decided to go and tell Chambers about it. That was simply something he liked doing. As Purchase tells it, Bird stood in between him and Chambers, turned to Chambers to make sure he was the one guarding him tonight. After he confirmed it, Bird decided to tell him what was really about to go down.
There's only one man that can guard me, and that's God.
He didn't say it for laughs. He said it because he meant it. This wasn't some one-off Bird story either. He hated when white defenders were assigned to him. Bird saw basketball as a black man's game, and he believed that if you were trying to stop him with someone like Chambers, it meant you weren't serious. You weren't giving him proper respect. So Bird made it his mission to punish Chambers and everyone else who tried him. That season, Bird was still in his prime. Against the Suns, he regularly put up stat lines around 28 points, 8 boards, and 8 assists. He wasn't just winning games, he was styling on them. Trash talk, pump fakes, turnaround jumpers, Bird gave the full package. To Chambers' credit, he never backed down. He kept competing. He went on to score over 20,000 points in his career, even dropping 60 in a game once. But Bird made sure that whenever Phoenix came to town, everyone knew who the real alpha was. By the time Larry Bird was deep into his prime, the trash talk was about dominance, perception, and making sure everyone on the court knew exactly where they stood. Let's talk about Bill Hanslick. A 67 wing out of Notre Dame, Hanslick carved out a 10-year career on grit and defense. He wasn't flashy, but he made his name guarding some of the toughest assignments in the league. In 1987, he earned NBA All-Defensive Second-Team honors. And under Doug Moe in Denver, he was often thrown at the best player on the floor, sometimes even centers like Ralph Sampson. So when the Nuggets faced the Celtics, guess who got the Larry Bird assignment?
Bird would always get upset if a white guy guarded him. He would even say to a teammate of the guy guarding him, "I can't believe you guys have a white guy guarding me."
That was the problem.
Did he talk trash to you?
Larry was one of the guys I liked to guard because, I averaged maybe 8 points a game. I was the defensive, but when I guard Bird, I could run the other way and I get 12, 15, 18 points. I felt like I had a good game.
It didn't matter that Hanslick had the length, the defensive IQ, or the effort. To Bird, the insult wasn't in how Hanslick played, it was that he was the one assigned to guard him at all. Byron Scott told the story in a recent interview.
The story goes that when he played against Denver, they had a guy named John Hanslick. You remember John Hanslick?
No.
He did miss Bill's name, but still, the story is true. We'll forgive Byron's bad memory.
6'7", Notre Dame guy, white guy, really good defender, right?
Bird saw him across the court and didn't even wait for the action to start. According to Scott, Bird walked right by the Denver bench and called out the head coach mid-game.
And Larry would run by the bench and tell Doug Moe, who was the coach, get him off me.
And you can easily guess what he said to the coach. To Bird, this wasn't strategy, it was symbolism. He'd grown up battling black players in Indiana, in college, and throughout his prime. He didn't want to be seen as a white player dominating other white players. That wasn't how he viewed himself, and it wasn't how he wanted to be remembered. Scott added more context.
Back in the day, that's all he played against was brothers. So he was like, don't put no white guy on me, that's disrespect. So what?
That's why this incident mattered. It wasn't about Hanslick's skills. Bird never questioned the man's effort. What he hated was the implication that a white wing could hang with him. That's why he talked to Moe. That's why he barked mid-play. It was a mental game, and Bird refused to let anyone disrespect his legacy. Not fans, not coaches, not matchups. In the end, Bird didn't really hate Bill Hanslick, but he hated being guarded by him. That subtle difference is what made the trash talk so cutting. He wasn't attacking Hanslick the man, he was attacking the entire idea that someone like Hanslick should be on the same floor. By the time Larry Bird reached the end of his career, there was only one player who could sum it all up: Magic Johnson. The rivalry that defined the 1980s, that carried the NBA from tape delay obscurity into primetime dominance, wasn't built on friendship, it was built on fire. But there's a reason Magic was the one to speak at Bird's retirement ceremony. The two first clashed in the 1979 NCAA title game, still the most watched college basketball game in history. Bird, the quiet killer from Indiana State, versus Magic, the smiling floor general from Michigan State. Magic won that day, and he'd win again in the pros 1985 and 1987 finals. But it was 1984 when Bird beat him on the biggest stage. That truly ignited the war. As Bird once admitted on Letterman, the relationship was complicated. Ervin the man, but Ervin the basketball player, I had a little problem with him. It ended, but I can't really say what I think. That's the tone Bird always had toward Magic. Respect for the man, something else entirely for the player. They were opposites in every way. Flashy versus gritty, West Coast Showtime versus blue-collar Midwest. Bird hated how effortless Magic made it look. Magic knew it too. He once said, "I didn't want Larry to like me, but we both respected each other." So when Bird's back finally gave out and his playing days were over, it was Magic's job to eulogize the era. During his speech, he told a story that revealed everything: the fire, the performance, the petty competition.
Larry comes down, he said, "You know what? Don't worry."
Bird walked over and leaned into Magic's ear.
We're in LA and I'm hurt, so I can't play against the Celtics. You know I'm killing myself.
Magic knew it wasn't going to be anything his team would like, and it wasn't.
"Don't worry, I'm gonna put a show on for you."
Then Bird went out and did exactly that. Magic said he couldn't believe it. Bird wanted Magic to feel every shot. Even with him sidelined, he turned and made eye contact after each jumper, deliberate, measured, and personal. That moment showed how he approached their rivalry. Bird didn't want sympathy or friendly applause. He wanted acknowledgement from the one player who truly pushed him. Eventually, the tension eased. A Converse shoot and French lick marked the shift. It started cold but ended in Bird's driveway, with the two of them sharing lunch and awkward jokes. Magic later admitted that was the day they became friends. Still, the competition never fully left the room. They laughed, toured, even sat beside each other at ceremonies, but their battles stayed close. Bird didn't dislike Magic off the court, but he never stopped needing to beat him on it. That edge defined them, not as enemies, but as two players who never wanted to walk off second. If you like this breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe for more rivalries, and let us know who we should cover next.